Alright, welcome to Mr. H's first YouTube video. I'm very excited, and I know by now you already liked this video, so please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Alright, let's go back to serious business here. We are going to learn about dividing polynomials by a binomial today. Now, before we do that though, I would like to just quickly review on long division. I'm sure many of you still remember how to do it, but let's just double check, see if that's the case. So here is first example in the warm-up section. 285 divided by 12. So to do long division, remember you set up like this. 285 is your dividend and 12 is the divisor. To do this, remember what you need to do is you need to think about how many times 12 goes into 28. And we know that 12 goes into 28 twice. And 12 times 2 is 24. And you need to subtract them when you do long division. 28 minus 24 is a 4. And you bring down the next digit here, and that's a 5, so you have 45. And now you look at 12 that goes into 45 3 times. That's 36. And you subtract, you get a remainder of 9. So this is the remainder. This is what we call the dividend. 12 is the divisor. And finally, 23 is what we call the quotient. Okay, so we did this in elementary school. I don't remember when, but a long time ago. So if you don't remember, that's how you do it. We'll do another example. Here in part B, we have 1485 divided by 27. And this one is slightly more challenging. You look at this, you have 27 goes into 14 0 times. You can't make 27 go into 14. So you got to look at 3 digits. 27 goes into 148. How many times is this? This is about 5 times. Yes. And 27 times 5 is 135. And again, you subtract them. 148 minus 135 is 13. You bring down the next digit, and that's 135. And 27 goes into 135 exactly 5 times. And you subtract, you get a 0. So notice in the second example, or second warm-up question, you see that we end up with a remainder of 0. So what exactly does that mean? Well, recall, this means that 27 is a divisor of 1485, okay, or a factor. Okay, 27 is a factor of 1485. So that's what it means by having a remainder of 0. Now, same thing actually applies to polynomials. When we divide polynomials by a binomial, we do exactly the same thing. Okay, so here is the first example. Now, be careful, it says here, important, write the polynomial and the binomial divisor in the descending order. So what that means is we want to make sure we have the highest degree or the biggest exponent in the front, and so on, the descending order. So the last one will be a constant. So here's the example. We want to divide negative 3x plus 2x cubed plus 6x squared minus 5 by x plus 1. Notice how this dividend right here is not written in the descending order. So what we need to do first is to change that into the descending order, which means we need to write 2x cubed first, followed by 6x squared minus 3x, and then minus 5. And the divisor is x plus 1. So when we divide polynomial with a binomial, we do exactly the same thing. We need to think about what we need to multiply to this term so that it's the same as, or as close as possible to what we have in the dividend, which is 2x cubed plus 6x squared. This is x. what do I need to multiply to make it 2x cubed? Right, we need to multiply this by 2x squared. So we multiply this by 2x squared, so x times 2x squared is 2x cubed. And then we have the plus 1 times 2x squared, that's 2x squared. Just like before, we need to subtract. I'm just going to keep it like this in red pen. So if you subtract these two expressions, 2x cubed minus 2x cubed, you got nothing. But you do have 6x squared minus 2x squared, which you get 4x squared. Oops. And just like with numbers, you need to bring down the next term, so minus 3x. And you continue. What do we need to multiply to x so we can get 4x squared? Well, we need to multiply by positive 4x. So plus 4x. And we have x times 4x, which is 4x squared. We have the plus 1 times 4x, which is plus 4x. And now you subtract again. That's 4x squared minus 4x squared, which is 0. We have negative 3x minus positive 4x, which is negative 7x. You bring down the next term, which is negative 5. Again, we need to think about what we need to multiply with x, so we can get negative 7x right here, which is, I guess, negative 7, because x times negative 7 will give us negative 7x. We have positive 1 times negative 7, which is negative 7. And again, we need to subtract them. That's negative 7x minus negative 7x, that's 0. We have negative 5 minus negative 7, which is positive 2. So here, we just finished dividing the polynomial by the binomial here. We get a quotient of 2x squared plus 4x minus 7. Now, we can always verify the answer by multiplying the quotient by the divisor and then add the remainder and see if that gives us the dividend that we had originally, okay? So in this case, the quotient was 2x squared plus 4x minus 7 times by the divisor, which is x plus 1. And we want to add the remainder at the end, okay? So this is what we need to expand. And if this at the end equals to the dividend, then we know that we did it right for sure. Okay, so that's what we want. Well, now let's check. So now we just need to expand 2x squared plus 4x minus 7 times of x plus 1. We have 2x cubed plus 2x squared. That's this times that. You then have plus 4x squared plus 4x. That is 4x times x and 4x times 1. And then finally we have minus 7x minus 7, which is this times that, and negative 7 times 1. And finally we have the plus 2 at the end. I'll put those in brackets, plus 2 at the end. Now we combine like terms. So we have 2x cubed. These two are like terms. We add them together, we get plus 6x squared. These two are like terms, combine them together, we got negative 3x. Finally, negative 7 plus 2 is negative 5. And you can see indeed that they are the same, so we know for sure we did it right. All right, if I went too fast, I guess you can change the speed on YouTube. If I went too slow, well, then you can fast forward, I suppose. But here's the example. If you have any questions, I guess you can ask me like you could in class, but you can rewatch the video again. And if you're feeling okay with this, click pause and try the example or the practice question on the next page. So go ahead. Okay, so I'm sure by now you have finished the practice. I'm just going to do it quickly, so make sure you check the answers. By verifying, I guess you don't really need to watch this part of the video, but I'm going to do it quickly so you can take a look, see if you did it right. That's minus 6x squared. Subtract 9x squared minus Okay, so that seems to be my answer. I'm just gonna quickly to verify the answer by the question by multiplying. Okay. So this indeed equals to our dividend, so I'm sure that I did it right here. All right, so again, if you have any questions, you can send me an email, I suppose. I just created the teams. So if you haven't downloaded the app, I guess you could download the app and send me a message if you have any questions, okay? Okay, so that was the first example. Now we're gonna move on to division statement. Now division statement for a division by x minus a. So here it says if p of x is the original polynomial and x minus a is the binomial divisor and q of x is the quotient, a polynomial, and r is the remainder, then here is the division statement. P of x is equal to x minus a times q of x plus r. Really, we did this right here, right? That's our quotient right here, that's q of x. This is our divisor, this is the x minus a part, and this is the remainder. And you can see when we multiply q of x times x minus a and then add it to the remainder, we get the p of x, which was our dividend. Okay, so really nothing new here, but it just, formalizes it for you. Okay, so here in the box it says in the division statement, when r equal to 0, how are p of x and x minus a related? How are they related if the remainder is 0? We talked about this earlier with just numbers. If the remainder is 0, then that means the divisor is the factor of the dividend. It's exactly the same thing here. X minus a would be a factor of p of x. Okay, so it would be the factor of p of x. So maybe I should go back and just erase that. And it is a factor. Okay. Okay, so now let me show you example number 2. And I don't know if you see the difference between this example and the first example. But notice how in this dividend here, there's no x cubed term here. So, well, what are we going to do? Quite frankly, we don't do anything much different from what we just did. Okay, well, except we are going to add this extra term here. Really, there's no x cubed term, but we can just write 0x cubed, right? I mean, it's not really making any difference. But having it there actually helps us to divide. Okay, so let's try this question then. So we have negative 4x to the power 4 plus 0x cubed minus 3x squared plus 2x minus 3 divided by x minus 2. Just like before, we need to think about what we need to multiply to go from x to negative 4x to the power 4. Well, we need to multiply by negative 4x cubed here. Okay, so let's do that. If you multiply by negative 4x cubed, you should get negative 4x to the power of 4 plus 8x cubed. And again, we need to subtract. Negative 4 minus negative 4 is 0. We have 0 minus 8, which is negative 8. We keep the x cubed there. Bring down the next term, negative 3x squared. To go from x to negative 8x cubed, we need to multiply by negative 8x squared. When you multiply, you should get negative 8x to the power of 3 plus 16x squared. Then you subtract, you should get negative 19x squared. Bring down next term, plus 2x here. You need to multiply by negative 19x in this case. And then you multiply, you should get negative 19x squared plus 38x. Subtract again, you get negative 36x. Bring down the last term, negative 3 here. And this time you need to multiply by negative 36. So you get negative 36x plus 72. You subtract them, you get negative 75. So there is our long division, and with a remainder of negative 75. So our division statement would be, it would be again x minus, so sorry, it would be our p of x, negative 4x to the 4 minus 3x squared plus 2x minus 3. Notice I did not write down 0x cubed here. Okay, you don't have to. Okay, this is equal to x minus a, which is x minus 2 here, times our quotient, negative 4x cubed minus 8x squared minus 19x minus 36 plus the remainder, which is, oh, actually minus 75. Minus 75. So here is our division statement. Okay. All right, so far we've done 3 questions. I don't know if you notice a pattern. The quotient is always 1 degree less than our dividend, meaning that the highest degree is always 1 less than the dividend. And the remainder is always a constant. Okay, notice the pattern there. Okay, think about why. Okay, think about why. Okay, well, if you think about it, I mean, you're dividing, I mean, using this example, the last example here, we are really dividing the 4th degree with a 1st degree. I mean, if you think about it, x to the power 4 divided by x, this is x cubed. And that's why our quotient is 1 degree less. That makes sense, okay? And the remainder has to be 1 degree less than our divisor, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't be a remainder, right? It'd be the same thing. Okay, so here's the practice question. You can go ahead and give it a try. Okay, so I'm assuming you finished the question. I'll quickly do it just to make sure that you did it right. Make sure you write this in the descending order. We don't have an x term here, so make sure you write down 0x divided by x plus 3. So I'm just gonna do it quickly. Okay, so our division statement. Oops. Statement is 2x cubed plus 3x squared plus 5. This should equal to x plus 3 times 2x squared minus 3x plus 9 minus 22. Okay, please make sure you have this answer. And I mean, I did it quickly, so I could possibly made a mistake. I guess you could comment below if I made a mistake. All right, last thing we need to talk about today is synthetic division. So synthetic, I mean, notice how, long division is, taking a while to do. So really what we want is a shortcut, and synthetic division is a shortcut, okay? It is a shortcut when dividing a polynomial by a binomial of the form x minus a. X minus a, okay? Doesn't really quite work if it was something like 3x plus 5, okay? It has to be like x minus a or x plus some number. Okay, in this method, the variables are removed and only the coefficients are needed. Okay, so I will show you how this works. Okay, the way to write this is also different from long division. You are going to write down an L like this, I guess, and you are only taking the coefficients of the dividend here. So that's a 3, so I'm going to write down a 3. That's -4, so -4. That's a 5, so write down a 5. That's -6, so I write down -6. We are dividing it by x minus 1. Okay, x minus 1. So here, x minus 1. Kind of tricky, I guess. Because we're dividing by x minus 1, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write down a 1 right here. Okay, a 1. If it was x plus 1, then you would write -1. Okay, so that's kind of the tricky part, I guess. It's the opposite sign. Okay, so how this method works is actually very, very simple. What you do is you bring down the first digit, that's a 3. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to take this 1 and times this 3. Okay, multiply. 1 times 3 is a 3, so then you write down the 3 right here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to add these two numbers together. Okay, -4 plus 3 is -1. And then again, you are going to multiply 1 with -1. So that's -1 right here. Okay, again, once you multiply, you write down the number here, and you're going to add them together. 5 plus -1 is a 4. And then, once again, you're going to multiply the 4 with the 1 over here. 1 times 4 is 4. And you're going to write it over there, and you're going to add them together. -6 plus 4 is -2. And basically, you're done. Okay, this is the remainder. And these three numbers are your quotient. Now, obviously, your quotients are not 3 minus 1 plus 4. Your quotients are actually, so if you look at your dividend, it's x cubed. Notice how I just said earlier that the quotient is always 1 degree less. Okay, 1 degree less if it's divided by x minus 8. So in this case, our quotient is going to be, these three are simply the coefficients of our quotients. So it's going to be 3x squared. Okay, the 3 came from here. Minus 1x. You don't obviously need to write down the 1. I'm just writing it to show you. From there, and then finally plus 4. Okay, and that comes from there. So the division statement is simply going to be 3x cubed minus 4x squared plus 5x minus 6 is equal to x minus 1 times the quotient 3x squared minus x plus 4 plus the remainder of -2. So that is our division statement. Notice how much shorter it is. Okay, it's a shortcut, much easier. So here's the last question for you to do. I guess you can click pause and give it a try. Okay, so I'm assuming you finished the question, so I'll do it here. Again, you take down the coefficients. Now, one thing I need to mention, I guess, I'll finish the question first. Okay, -3, 2, 3, -4, and 5. You're dividing by x plus 2, so instead of plus 2, I'm going to write down -2 here. Bring down -3 times, that's a 6. You're going to add them together, so that's 8 times, that's -16. Add them together is -13. You're going to multiply them together as 26. Add them together is 22. And then finally, you are going to multiply these two together as -44. And let me see if I made a mistake. Just want to double check. 8, -16, yeah, that's right. Okay, good. So 5 minus 44 is -39. So your division statement would be, oh man, it's a long one, negative 3x to the 4 plus 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4x plus 5 is equal to, all right, so x plus 2, so remember this is the remainder, times negative 3x cubed plus 8x squared minus 13x plus 22 minus 39. Okay, so again, quotient is always 1 degree less than the dividend if we are dividing it by x minus a. Okay, so what I was gonna mention was, what if there was a term, or what if there was a missing term, right? So for example, what if there's no 2x cubed here? Okay, well, in that case, you do the same thing, okay? Just like what we did with long division, you just put a 0 there, okay, instead. And, you do the same thing as usual, if, as if there was a number, okay? But it's just a 0 instead, okay? So really nothing different, you just put a 0 there. All right, so that's it. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, this is the end of my first video. I'm sure this is the first one, but I'm sure there will be many more to come. All right, send me a message if you have any questions, okay? Or comment down below. All right, good luck.